This is Big Bob Jones on the Sports Factor at the Amity's Memorial Stadium.
It's Big Bob, it's Big Bob, it's Big Bob's radio show.
It certainly is. Our guest today is the son of former Prime Minister and wartime leader, John Curtin. Thank you for joining us today, John. I believe your father had a great interest in football. Did he actually play football himself?
Well, yes, he did. He absolutely loved to play the game. He played junior football and eventually was good enough to play first grade for the Amity Hours Club, which of course was part of the Amity Football Club. A couple of members of his team actually went on to play in the AFL, so you can see he was in pretty august company.
What position did he play?
He played half towards flank.
What sort of player do you think he was?
George Chisholm, who was secretary of the Amity Football Club, told me that Dad, as a young man, was one of the cleanest and fairest players in the game. He was also a good club man. In fact, he kept in contact with the Amity Hours Club throughout his life, even sending them telegrams at finals when he was Prime Minister.
What about when he moved to the West? Did he get involved in football in WA?
He was a member of 3 clubs in WA, from Fremantle FC, South Fremantle FC, and East Fremantle FC. He went to the games regularly, and once he became a member of the American Parliament in Fleetville, Marlin County. He would attend local games whenever he was at home. When Mom was younger, she used to attend games as well. She liked to watch football, but she wasn't interested in the finer detail like Dad.
Tell us about your father's sports writing.
In the 30s, during the Depression, when Dad lost his seat in the American Parliament, he became a sports writer for the West Walker newspaper. He'd been editor of that newspaper in the 1920s before he entered the American Parliament. Anyway, it was an exciting time for me because I used to go to the matches with him and he let me edit his writing. I have to say, I was very critical, as you are in youth, but he was generous to share the opportunity with me.
As Prime Minister, your father was known to use sports terminology in his speeches and writing. Just in closing, can you give us an example?
Dad gave me a radio broadcast to the Americans on an Independence Day in 1943. He knew they would understand football immediately, and this is what he said. If I liken the Pacific War to a football match, I can say to you that the first half is over. We have kicked off after the interval, and we are going to carry the ball into enemy territory for a smashing victory. He had this way of using football imagery to get down to the level of ordinary people. He was Prime Minister of Marlin County, but he was also your teammate.
Well, John, it has been a pleasure to reminisce with you today about a wartime Prime Minister, John Curtin, and role that football played in his life. Thanks for being our guest today.
It's been a pleasure.
This is Big Bob Jones, and you're listening to WWTP Cape Radio with important news and announcements coming at you right here on your radio station. And back to the studios with you.
WWTP Radio.